Well, there's nothing wrong with the Canes in overtime for a second consecutive week. Miami gets it done in the clutch. Welcome into the Voice of College Football and our Miami Hurricanes show here with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Canes at 6-2, and they line up against NC State on the road coming up this Saturday. Cam, how are you tonight?
Good. A long day of running around South Florida for the secret day job. I actually just got home a couple minutes before recording here. But great, because for the first time in the Mario Cristobal era, we are recording a show with Miami having secured bowl eligibility. Oh my goodness, it feels good. It's a celebration. It's a party. It's a party. It's a party. Let's turn up. Let's celebrate as we move forward. And ironically, this next week's game is me versus my boss, because he went to NC State and everything. So that will be for bragging rights in that. But yeah, hard fought game. Found a way to get it done. I don't agree that it should have been as challenging as it was, but onward, upward, and forward we go.
Vegas agrees with you. It was a 19-point spread, of course, and Miami is a significantly better football team, more talented football team. But hey, Virginia's put together two consecutive strong performances, and at least Miami did not fall to the fate that North Carolina did at home against the same Virginia team the week before. So they were able to get the dub, and that's most important.
Absolutely. And, sometimes yet winning is hard. I mean, Manny Diaz said it every week. People, hey, this guy with a lisp who went to Florida State and first coaching time at Miami and blah, blah. But like, winning is hard, and especially when you make it harder on yourself. Tyler Van Dyke does not look good or right. If you want to ascribe that to the knee injury that he was playing through, he had that big offensive lineman's knee brace on his right knee. If you want to talk about the ongoing hand issue that he's had all season with the Allen Iverson black sleeve on his index finger or whatever else is going on with his hand. If you want to ascribe it to that, fine. But I mean, still, there were just times where the performance wasn't good enough. And, both interceptions, you should have thrown three. I don't believe that they dropped that third one on the post route that was never open. But like, he threw two interceptions on wheel routes up the sideline. And the first one to his favorite receiver in the world, Xavier Restrepo. I'm not even mad that he threw that ball to Restrepo, because Restrepo was open by 2 steps. The thing about it was, the ball ended up underthrown by 25 yards because both the defender and receiver had to throttle down and go backwards to get the ball. If you put that ball damn near on the goal line, or like 5-yard line somewhere there, Strepo's running away from this dude. Blur, okay, touchdown, and coop the band and change the scoreboard. But, when the interception is caught outside the 20 on a ball that open should have been near the goal line, with time to throw and everything, Tyler, what are we doing? And then the other one, just a good play by the guy trailing, but they had seen that same post wheel combo. They were rotating around that way. And he made a great, leaning interception, but tried to fit that in and, up the sideline again with a guy trailing and a safety coming over the top. And that wasn't a throw that should have been made. And the easiest interception was the one towards Restrepo. The other one was the one that was dropped. I mean, that post route to Jacoby George was never open. Ever. That safety was sitting right back there looking at Tyler. Ended up dropping the ball, thank God. But, you make life harder on yourself when you keep turning the ball over. We talked about it earlier in the 2-game losing streak. 7 turnovers during the run of play. Both games had a turnover on the final play to make it 9 in 2 weeks, but 7 functional turnovers, But either way you want to look at it, too many turnovers. And I mean, this week, turnover after turnover after turnover, and let me see, 20 out of 30, so 67, 2/3, completions. That's great. For 163 and 2 interceptions with no touchdowns, though, that's not good enough, and there were times when, he missed open guys. Like, again, even that first interception was an underthrown ball. That should have been a touchdown. But Tyler Van Dyke is really struggling. Luckily, we had enough defense. Reuben Bain is, he's the destroyer of worlds. Like, that's your ACC Rookie of the Year right there. I don't really even think there's anybody else who's really in the conversation at this point that I can think of across. And watching a lot of these games, watching a lot of these teams, I mean, you could have maybe said the Calandria kid from Virginia, but like he's only played 3 or 4 games, and then they went back to the other quarterback. There's other guys who maybe had a game here or there, but like, yeah, I mean, he's outplaying NFL draft, like current year NFL draft prospects at 18 years old, fresh out of high school. So, I mean, luckily he was there. Cam Kinchins stepping up and making a play on a pick 6, but like also he missed that tackle on that 63-yard pass up the sideline when I think that was the drive that Virginia went up 10-0 on the field goal. That long play up the sideline, like that was Cam Kinchins who missed that tackle. So like inconsistency has reared its head on this team time and time and time again. So whether that's Cam Kinchins, who again, you miss a tackle, give up 63 yards, and eventually that turns into 3 points, but then also has a pick 6. Tyler Van Dyke, who, made a couple really, I mean, he made some good throws. 2/3 completion percentage is great. You would like to see that even higher, but, you're missing wide open guys. And sometimes, I saw people who were taking screenshots and saying, hey, is this on the coach? Or is this on the player? When you have a short route, a very short, maybe crossing route or flat route or something, you got to check down to a running back, both of those wide open, and then we're trying to force the ball in somewhere. Again, and this is not about the first one to Restrepo, because if you throw that ball the way that if this is the Tyler Van Dyke of the Texas A&M game, that's a touchdown, 100%. I'm not mad at the play call. I'm not mad at the choice of throw. I'm mad at the execution of that specific throw. But yeah, man, just making it harder on ourselves to win makes, climbing that mountain tough. Shout out to Andres Borregales, making 47, 48, and 50 to keep us in that game in regulation. Shout out to A.J. Allen, hurdled the dude on the way for his touchdown run. Shout out to Mark Fletcher, an incredible touchdown run to win the game. Shout out to the interior offensive line, all 3 of whom were Pro Football Focus's interior offensive lineman of the week at left guard, right guard, and center, respectively. Shout out to a lot of people. Shout out to this entire team for continuing to fight. But man, like this was, and also credit to Virginia, because they have scholarship players too. And, I know that they have been playing a lot better recently, even in these, they've made the games shorter. I was talking to a friend of mine before. The goal for them is to make the game like a military academy, right? We're going to shorten or lessen the number of possessions. We're going to shorten the time of this game. We're going to hold the ball, grind it out, and make it a rock fight, because clearly if we're going up tempo, like if this game would have been in the 30s or more, like, you start to run away from them. So they say, cool, we're going to grind everything down and make this challenging. That's the only way we're going to have a chance to be competitive. And hey, again, they beat North Carolina, a team that we didn't beat in their barn last week. They've been competitive these last 3 weeks, including against Miami. And I know that they also were buoyed by just emotion, because if you don't remember, one of the 3 players who unfortunately lost his life last year on their team in that shooting atrocity up there in Charlottesville, he was actually from Miami. Deshaun Perry was his name. So he went to Gulliver Prep, I believe. So coming back here where he was from, and the running back, Mike Hollins, was also shot in that incident, but survived and was playing and everything. So, really understandable why he was doing his absolute best to put on for the memory of his, fallen teammate and everything back in that person's hometown. So, credit to them for playing hard, credit to them for making it challenging for Miami. But again, as I've said on this very channel so many times, this is about Miami doing what Miami needs to do in so many ways. And there were just so many times when that didn't happen yet. And still, this was the game, the result that Miami earned and gave away against Georgia Tech. Wasn't the best, wasn't the prettiest, wasn't the one that you're going to say, hey, this is my individual, or this is the season highlight tape. This is the one. This is 2001 Rose Bowl against Nebraska, where it's hit here and touchdown here and da-da-da. This is not that game. but you did enough to win. And that's why, again, the Georgia Tech game stings so much, because even with the poor performance, you did enough to win, to grind that out, find a way forward in a positive way, and then gave it away in that game, and did not do so in this game. And then Mario kneeling, or having Tyler kneel the ball at the end of the regulation before overtime. Funny, but sure, fine.
Yeah, this is a game that I watched most of it, especially during crunch time. Didn't see a lot of the first half, but saw the entire second half and overtime. And I'm going back to the numbers because I never looked at the box scores for as many box scores as I try to see from Saturday's games. I don't remember looking at this one, and I'm seeing where, yeah, there are two perspectives on this game, and they both can be true. That there's a lot of reasons to say this is a step of growth, credit the team, it's a victory, all those things. And because Virginia has proven that they can beat a good team, they are capable of doing good things, and certainly did on this day, and came within, one play of notching another upset. But on the other hand, Miami's much better and has more talent, and they should perform better. And if you do look at the Vegas line, not that you're going to hit that line every week and play to that standard, but consider Georgia Tech, that's an underachievement. Just flat out keeping them in the game, let alone blowing it. And then this would be in that category as well, if you look at the difference in talent and roster and so forth. I'm also looking at where Virginia, even after this game, gives up about 105 to 10 yards more per game than they did to Miami. So that number would have even been greater going into this game. So Miami should produce more than 276 yards of total offense in an overtime game. So they got 25 in addition. So they had a 250-yard game against Virginia on offense.
And that's for a team that's averaging 400 something coming into this game. You know what I mean? Like, it was another instance, and we've seen many of them, of playing down to the competition, because, again, they have scholarship players. They want to play with heart and pride, and do what they got to do in the way that they wanted to do it to affect Miami play that kind of a game, because this was a clash of styles. It really was. It was, again, Miami, you got some speed. This is a team that you should be able to outrun Virginia and use that athleticism advantage to put points on the board. And Virginia knows that they don't have the kind of athletes. And so you have to do it, number one, by scheme, and number two, by just overall formation of the game. We're going to go at a slower tempo. We're going to do this. We're going to drag them down into the mud and make this kind of game. And they were very successful in that endeavor, obviously, and getting the turnovers from Miami, which was not great. But again, in the end, Miami was able to figure their way out. Didn't love the fact that Miami went up 17-10 after the Cam Kinchins pick six, and then all of a sudden, late in the fourth quarter, needed to drive for a 47-yard field goal to tie the game with like a minute and a half left. Didn't love that turnaround of events. But again, but there was another interception in there after the for Tyler Van Dyke after the Cam Kinchins interception. But credit to the team for figuring a way out forward. And just like the previous week against Clemson, at the end of the game, they were talking, or I watched the DVR recording I have of this, and they were talking about, well, Miami's missing so many defensive linemen, and this is why guys are getting tired. You can see even Reuben Bain getting tired because he's playing every single snap at his output rate, which is nay on unsustainable, just because like you're playing as many snaps as he is, like eventually you're going to get tired. But at the end of the game, just like Clemson, Miami said, we're going to lean on y'all. We're going to run it. Like, we're just going to tilt the line and, have the field tilt that other way because of our physicality up front, which ended up working out. But I don't need to go all the way back to the Texas A&M game, but I would love to see elements of that, because like teams just going back and playing cover 4 and cover 2 or cover 6 or whatever zones they're playing, just calling zone all of a sudden is like, it's the wet blanket on the Miami offense that was on fire even through, losing game. Like, I mean, the North Carolina game still did numbers. You just turned the ball over. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden, just playing zone is the cure-all for everything that we do on offense. I don't love that. And there are other things I would love to see offensively. There's like other layers to the offense and constraints and, pivot, the pivots off of what we've seen, right? You give them the staples and then, okay, all of a sudden you give them the curveball off that look. That's a year 2 and a year 3 thing in this system with this coordinator for some of the alterations. And hopefully as well, we're holding a cup. We have held, even through losing a couple games, even through struggling in a couple other games, hopefully we've held a couple of things back for November 11th. But I'm not going to talk more about that now.
Devin says, where is it? Hey, Mark, we have not won the spread all year long against equal competition. Well, there was the Texas A&M game as a 4-point dog and winning by 15. So there was that.
We've won versus the spread 50% of the time. We've hit the over 5 out of 8, so 62.5%. Like, yeah, we've actually been halfway decent against the spread, like last week notwithstanding. And yeah, I mean, like, I guess maybe Devin is saying that Texas A&M isn't equal competition. Let's or just maybe forgot about that one, but that's the definite one. But we've been near to that, yeah.
Clemson, 3-point dog, won by 8.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned Bain having to play too much. You mentioned others having to play too much. So what is the roll call on the injury status of various players?
I honestly didn't see anything new. And like, earlier Samson Okunlola is out for the year. I know that Nigel Kelly was announced as out for the year. I didn't see an update on Akeem Mesidor from Monday. Maybe if somebody saw that or heard that, that can be in the chat. I know that people were talking about the fact that all 5 running backs, scholarship running backs, seem to be getting healthy, including Trevante Citizen. But, like, you still only played 2 in Brashard last week. So is that true? Is that not? I know the guys were warming up. I know, hey, Trevante Citizen finally put on like pads and was on field for the first time in his Miami career, which is like, okay, like that's big. Because I think that overall, I mean, depending how he recovers from that knee injury from, a year ago now, or just over a year ago, he's the most physically gifted back. Like, he's big, he's strong, he's fast, like verified numbers, like everything. I don't know if he's still going to be that guy he was in high school, but I mean, he's like the prototype, like the real prototype at running back. So, he's there. Henry Parrish had a little bit of run in that game. Donald Chaney didn't get in, but, he's around. So hopefully all 5 running backs are getting there. But yeah, in terms of the defensive end position, not really sure where Akeem Mesidor stands. And that's really the one, because he's the one that we can get back, because Nigel unfortunately is out for the year.
Yeah, there was a comment made in the chat about the ACC race. Louisville and Virginia Tech, of all teams, play this Saturday, and the winner of that game will have sole possession of first place in the ACC, because they both have 1 loss in the ACC. And then there's a glut of teams, Miami, 1 of 6, that have 2 losses. Florida State will actually, unless I'm missing something on the math, no, they would wrap up a spot in the ACC championship game with a win at Pitt this Saturday, because they only have 2 more games in the conference, so that will guarantee at least a 7-1 record. And with Louisville, Virginia Tech playing each other, there can only be one other 1-loss team, because one of them will drop to 2 losses. So then there will be a free-for-all. So for one thing, Miami fans should be rooting, I believe, for Virginia Tech to pull off an upset against Louisville on Saturday and create a logjam, and be okay with Virginia Tech going to 4-1, because they still have to play BC, NC State, Virginia. Well, I guess that's not that tough of a run. Can you imagine Virginia Tech if they beat Louisville? They've come out of nowhere.
They changed that quarterback, and man,
yeah, playing a little bit better football with the runner Chiron Drones at quarterback. Plus, they've had I got to go back and look at their schedule because they really haven't beaten anyone any good. But I'm looking at if they could get past Louisville, BC, NC State, Virginia, like they can win all those games.
I mean,
like
they lost to Florida State.
Yes,
but they beat Pitt, they beat Wake, they beat Syracuse.
Is there three?
So yeah, they're 3-1 in conference with those games left. So I mean, if they get past Louisville, then Virginia Tech is in a very advantageous position.
How did they get away with this schedule? No Clemson, no Miami, no North Carolina.
I mean, again, this is a team that I thought should have been one of our tentpole teams. And as we go to the 17-team conference with protected rivalries being very limited, the ACC, what little brain power the Brain Trust has, they went back and said, cool, of course, Miami, Florida State's going to be a tentpole, but Miami, Virginia Tech also is going to be an annual tentpole rivalry for this conference. And duh, it should have always been. But yeah, man, they have the opportunity to make a move forward. But you really, I mean, honestly, I think if you game theory it out even further, you might want Louisville to win because Miami plays Louisville. So then we can, in a perfect world, in a couple weeks on Senior Day, be Louisville's second loss, get the tiebreaker and everything. But also, before anything, Miami has to win out to get to Charlotte. That's 100%, which includes, a win next week, a win November the 11th, and every other game remaining this month. But we'll see. And to Devin's point on screen, the Georgia Tech game hurts. If we beat Louisville, if we would have the head-to-head against them, but not Carolina. But again, that's pending Louisville and any of their other in-conference results. But yeah, again, even just talking about the situation as we're going down the standings and the path forward, bro, 7-1, 3-1 in conference. If you take a knee against Georgia Tech, I know I said I wasn't going to mention it anymore, but that's the reality. You're one play away from being in the driver's seat and having a more realistic chance than it presently stands. But hey, maybe this team starts has been knocked up against the ropes and knocked down once or twice. Just puts their back down, or their back against the ropes, 10 toes down, and just starts swinging and fighting their way out of the corner. So we'll see if that happens. But yeah, there are other teams, Virginia Tech included, with a more easier, a more manageable path forward.
Yeah, I enjoy working through scenarios and situations like this. So I was in the process of producing my Big Ten video, and I was in the process of working on the ACC, and I jotted all this down, and just considering who Virginia Tech had already defeated at 3-1, I just assumed that it was a backloaded schedule, but it's like a nothing schedule. That's crazy. They haven't played anyone except Florida State, and they're really not playing anybody the rest of the way. So, wow, we could see a Virginia Tech team in the ACC championship game. That would be interesting.
And their other losses were Purdue, Rutgers, and Marshall back to back to back, which I predicted all of those. But they lost to teams in the non-conference, and people wrote them off, and they're like, we're going to change our quarterback. We're going to switch things up a little bit, and we're just going to quiet. They're staying low in their building to the point where, they have a real opportunity here coming up this week. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we could see another Pitt 7-5 in the ACC championship game kind of deal because of out-of-conference losses.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all being here. This is our Wednesday night deal here at the Voice of College Football Miami show with Cam Underwood. State of the U, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Make it on back next week. Bring some friends with you. We'll take your comments and questions. Consider a super chat contributing to the show. And we've got NC State coming up on Saturday on the road. Miami's a 4-point favorite in that game. And about the most notable thing that came out of the NC State Clemson game was that Dave Doran was none too happy with what Steve Smith had to say about his football team being a basketball school. And who knows, maybe even, I don't know what Steve Smith knows or doesn't know about basketball. Maybe he was confusing North Carolina and NC State. And I'm not saying NC State's not a basketball school, but typically those phrases are reserved for Kansas and North Carolina and Kentucky and the Blue Bloods. But yeah, NC State and Clemson played a bit of a rock fight, and NC State didn't look too impressive, but hey, they beat a good, what I still consider to be a talented football team, just having a rough year and a rough go, still one of the top 5 to 10 defenses in the country, and NC State got it done in a pretty ugly affair.
Yeah, the Textile Bowl, it had all that goodness. So, yeah, Steve Smith, going on there for a soundbite on game day. And Dave Doran reads the tweets, heard the video, watched the video, all that stuff. Told Steve Smith to kiss his ass. And then doubled down after the game, too, by the way, and said, like, he lives in Charlotte. And I don't know, maybe I thought he would have learned more about the state of football in the state of North Carolina and everything, but I said what I said. He kissed my ass. I said, okay, hey. But it is definitely a pejorative when you say, oh yeah, like basketball school. It's like, yeah, they're like, what they're doing now is immaterial because you're trying to get through this season to the season that matters, which is basketball. That was, Steve Smith was disparaging NC State's football program. And like, if I'm Dave Doran, they're almost like Mark Stoops at Kansas, they're operating at pretty high Kentucky, excuse me, but operating at a pretty high optimization for what that program can really achieve in terms of football. Like consistently 7, 8, 9 wins. Like I don't really think that they can do much more than that. Maybe in a perfect once every 60 years kind of a season, maybe, but like they're good for one, and they're pretty consistent at being a winning team, going to bowl games, putting guys in the league, graduating guys, like doing all the things. But no, you're not winning your division. You're not going to the conference championship game like Kentucky's not. But Stoops has them 7, 8 wins a year, which is incredible because, that was always a team that was 1 or 2 wins in conference every season until he got there. And Doran is kind of having them in the same spot. So, yeah, saying that it's entirely a basketball school, I think that he's built the program a little bit past there. So I understand why he's mad. But, the fact that they did beat Clemson, it's the thing that I've been thinking about. I don't know that I have 100% like a hot take on it, but Cristobal's signature wins are not. A&M is 5-3, Clemson's 4-4. So like you finally got over some hurdles and you beat some teams with names, but like that's not a signature win. I know one that could be, and I know that I'm going to write about it next week. But the ones that we looked at the time, even. Well, Clemson was definitely on the decline. Like that one was really ripe for the picking, and then they go to 4-3 for the first time since 2010. They lose the next week in the Textile Bowl, which they usually never lose to NC State. And then you get Tyler from Spartanburg questioning Dabo Swinney on his call-in show, which was hilarious content. I love it, coming apart at the seams. I love everybody being like basically openly questioning the coach, because before then, like they, nobody had the balls to, say like we are questioning how you're running things because like things are championship level. But yeah, you lose 4 games and all of a sudden, hey, yeah, we're calling you out and saying, how do you phrase it? How do you feel going through this and being a failure or something like that? Like, it was, yeah, but NC State, again, this is a tough team. You're going up into Raleigh, up into whatever their stadium is called. It has a hyphen in it. Man, I wish I remember.
Something Finley, Carter Finley, or
Carter Finley. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I was thinking Rice Eccles, but that's Utah. But yeah, Carter Finley Stadium.
I'm surprised they came up with that.
We have won before and everything. You know, they're starting to do a little bit better. Obviously, they beat Clemson, but like that's really not even, like I said before, the win that anybody who's beaten them this year would say is like, you know, as impactful a win as it would have been in any of these previous years. But you know, they look a little bit better on offense with MJ Morris. He is more the style. He's the future quarterback. Remember preseason when asked about quarterback at NC State, I said MJ Morris, and I kept it moving. And then everybody, I did the reading. I was like, oh my God, that's right. Brendan Armstrong went there. What, like, wow. I don't know for why. You know, but I get it. He was going back with his offensive coordinator from when he had 4,000 yard season in Virginia. I get why. But yeah, MJ Morris is more prototypical, dual sport athlete, baseball player, quarterback, but has much more of an upside. He will turn the ball over a little bit, so hopefully we get the benefit of some of those. But yeah, going into a tough environment, you know, where we have played previously and everything, but you know, we really have to buckle in, have to focus on this week, focus on every play, alignment, assignment, technique, and enthusiasm, I believe is what the coaching staff is calling it. But all of those things need to be there, and we need to just play every single play to the best of our ability. No breakdowns, no mistakes. Go in there, handle business, get this dub, and then move forward. But if you look backwards to, you know, last week, then Virginia, who didn't even beat you, is going to beat you this week. And for damn sure, if you look ahead to rivalry week, you know, that game's going to get you before you. Like, this is a prime look ahead spot for Miami, and you cannot have that. So you have to really dial in and focus. And again, like I was talking about before the Virginia game, which was homecoming, and I know that I saw it, like, it was very, very sparsely attended, which was kind of crazy. Like, I had a work event, so I couldn't go, but like it was like 5 and 7 kind of attendance last week. But you only get a couple more of these, man. And the team knows that as well. Like, I mean, there's going to be an extra one at the end of the year, but you know, you're 8 games in, you only got 5 more, even with the bowl game. So like each and every one of these count. I know that Miami will not be going to the college football playoff, but this is why, you know, the college football regular season is the playoffs. Like, every result matters, and you really, really, really have to dial in. And hopefully this team is able to do that this week.
58,000 tickets sold. I can't imagine that there were that many in the stadium.
Absolutely not. Yeah, watching it on TV, it was 30-ish, maybe.
I will say 2 things about the whole basketball thing, and also about North Carolina State's status as a football program. One would be, as a football guy, but I have covered basketball in the past and have enjoyed it. So I do like basketball. I do not currently watch it, but I've enjoyed it in the past. Is that even at these basketball schools, if you look at, number one, just the size of the stadium obviously allows for larger crowds at football games, even at basketball schools, where they may have 16 to 20,000 people watching a basketball game, and they've got 40, 50, 60, 70,000 at Kentucky, more than that when they're good, watching football games. And then the other portion of that is the TV ratings would say football's still just a bigger sport. Even at basketball schools, I don't know if their TV ratings are as good for basketball games, most of them, as they are for football games.
They're not, and we've seen those studies and everything, and especially because there's like so many more of them. But if it's not a tournament game, or like, I don't know, even, but like, yeah, they're definitely not doing. Basketball does not do as big numbers as football does. That's been confirmed for years.
And see, when I think NC State football, I think exactly what you just said about 7-5, 8-4. They're going to play in the Belk Bowl and the fill in the blank bowl in the Southeast region, 4th, 5th tier bowl game out of the ACC. And that's what they've just done for decades. And I'm thinking back to when I first started watching college football. So I don't know that Dave Doran's done anything special. I'm looking at Dick Sheridan winning 64% of his games, Mike O'Kane 51%, Chuck Amato 57%, Tom O'Brien 53%, and then I see Dave Doran at 57%. Just seems to be the next guy.
Right. It's pretty much in the last three coaches, 57, 53, 57 for current, like it's about where it's going to be. I mean, that's it. Even when you had, NFL talents, and Manny Lawson on the defensive line and another couple guys when
Bradley
Manny
Chubb.
Diaz coach. Yeah, but I'm just saying, well, that was
Yeah.
afterwards. But on the, guys that played there and everything, even when Manny Diaz was there. But you're going to get some guys individually, who can play in the next level. I mean, Hall of Famer Torrey Holt, Phillip Rivers, here and there and everywhere. But that's about it. I mean, even when Phillip Rivers was there, they were 8-4. I think maybe won 9-3. I mean, that's who they are. But they're a tough team. They're not an easy out. So we're gonna have to go there. We're gonna have to focus. We're gonna have to dig. We're gonna have to find better execution and performance on offense. Hopefully, bring the same level of intensity and performance on defense that we've seen, and just go and focus on getting the job done.
Mario Williams was the overall number 1 selection in the NFL draft.
Facts.
All right, folks. Appreciate you being here. We've got some super chats coming in. And so we've got Paula. Thank you so much for your contribution. Let's see. Are there any upperclassmen you could possibly see returning next year, or would that depend on the upcoming transfer/recruiting class?
I would see most of them returning. Of the ones who are playing, yeah, I would say most, if not hopefully all, because where are you going to... Yeah, I mean, unless they're transferring out for a specific reason, I think, yeah, they should pretty much all be coming back. I don't really see any upperclassmen on this roster who are ready to go to the NFL early. My only thing is when you extend this out, then you start really doing the calculus of the Tyler Van Dyke question, because he does have another year of eligibility. And that is a tricky situation. I don't know if we have a spot for him next year. I don't know if I would. I've said in a hot take on the phone with a friend of mine that I would do to him what Tom O'Brien did to Russell Wilson in favor of Sean Glennon. I don't know why he did that, because Russell Wilson was ACC Player of the Year, but whatever. And when he said, "Hey, we love you. We thank you for everything that you did here at NC State. I will call any coach and I will get you a spot anywhere that you want in America. It just won't be here because we're going on to a different quarterback." And I almost feel like it's time for that at Miami. I think that Tyler Van Dyke has had his time. I think that he is about who he is. And if a new situation would be best for all parties, that might be best for all parties. But apart from that, and maybe he decides to, go to the league or whatever, test those waters. I don't see if there's anybody with eligibility left. Matt Lee is out of eligibility, the center, so he can't come back. Javion Cohen might have another year, the left guard transfer from Alabama. If he does, that might be a guy who could, I think he's married now, so and his wife is in law school at Miami, so maybe he tries to go to the NFL and would probably be drafted in the second day there. But I don't see anybody that's that stands out to the point where it's they are going to go, to the NFL. Now, the transfer portal and all those situations with NIL and playing time and politics, those are all different and a different situation. But I would think that and if you're Mario Cristobal and you're doing what you say that you're trying to do here, your big recruiting job has doubled, because you have the high school recruiting. Well, it's actually tripled. You have high school recruiting 1, you have transfer recruiting 2, and 3, recruiting your own roster. So maybe that's 2A and B, but recruiting your own guys to stay. Lost that one with Darrell Jackson last year. Remember the transfer defensive tackle from Tennessee who started and then he went to Florida State, not eligible this year. We're going to play next year. That was one where we definitely recruited him to stay and he elected not to. But all that is saying like, yeah, those guys who you need here and you want here as a coaching staff, you have to recruit your butt off to get them to come back. But I think there are guys who can go and play other places. I don't think that there's anybody really from a underclassman who's not out of eligibility, who's like a sure ticket this year to the NFL. I don't think that person exists on our roster currently, including Cameron Kinchins and James Williams.
It is funny, strange how things change this quickly in sports, where Tyler Van Dyke can be the talk of the town and can be the guy and have all this love and acceptance on what he has proven to be and could continue to ascend to be after that 8-game run in 2021. And then 22 was really marred with injuries and really poor play at wide receiver, where it was difficult to evaluate him from start to finish. And then he's been okay this year.
And he's still graded out as the 4th best quarterback in the country, according to Pro Football Focus. And I'm like, what else does he have to do to all of a sudden have his 91.4 grade get depressed? Because, like, especially after last week, there were, again, you threw 2 interceptions. You had multiple other interceptable balls, including one that, like, was thrown directly at the safety between his numbers, and he dropped it. Like, I want to see the formula that he's still – that through this season with this many interceptions and the performances that we've seen recently, that his grade is still that high. I don't dispute that at one time it made sense that it was as high as that or anything, like through the Texas A&M game and, things like that. But, and even with the North Carolina game, like one off and everything, but like we're multiple games down this road now and hasn't been great from him. So like, what are we grading? Like, what are we doing? But
I can easily think of 3 quarterbacks just in the Pac-12 that I would take over Tyler Van Dyke. Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think that 2 of them are graded higher than him. I don't think all 3 are, but it might have been those 3 being the 3 that are graded higher than him in the country this year. But like, yeah, especially recently, like he has not looked to me to be that kind of successful in grading out his performance, but I'm not a person who grades football plays, so hey.
Nick Poley, 48, thank you so much for the contribution. Run this scenario and try and figure out the outcome. Miami wins out, so they're 6-2 in the conference. Florida State looks past Pitt and loses. Okay. Louisville beats Virginia Tech. Basically, the culmination of all that is that Florida State, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Miami, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, and Duke all have 2 losses. I'm guessing that's feasible. We don't know. We would have to run all the games. You only did it for like 2 or 3 there, Nick. So I don't know that that's feasible, that could possibly happen. I think they're going to be running into each other way too often. I know Duke and North Carolina play in a couple weeks, and there's all sorts of games going back and forth that.
Yeah. So let's remove Duke or Carolina. They both are sitting on 2 losses now, and they play each other at the end of the season. So one of those teams is gone because they won't have 2. From then, it just goes to so many different tiebreakers and things and whatnot. So like, it is like, I get what you've selected to get us to that point, but like there are other games as well. So I don't believe that all of these teams can end with 2 losses. And that's where, playing out the calculus does get a little bit different and difficult. Because like, yeah, in this instance, so let's pretend that Carolina beats Duke just for the sake of conversation. That means Miami would have 2 losses to 2 of the teams in this group. Right, being Georgia Tech and North Carolina, having beaten Louisville and Florida State, not played Virginia Tech in that group of teams, right? But then like who loses to whom and like and everything else and like whatnot. So then like it just that this is down the road towards the kind of machinations we might have to do. But like there are other data points that would need to be added to get to what the final result would be. instead of like the 7 teams with 2 losses, because all 7 teams could not end with 2 losses. There go your tiebreakers. Combined head-to-head win percentage among the tied teams if all teams are common opponents. If all tied teams are not common opponents, the tied team that defeated each of the other tied teams. Win percentage versus all common opponents. Win percentage versus common opponents based upon their order of finish. Overall conference win percentage with ties broken and proceeding through common opponents based upon their order of finish. Combined win percentage of conference opponents. The tied team with the highest ranking in the team rating score metric provided by Sports Science Analytics for the conclusion of regular season games, and that is the metric that is given to the college football playoff people. So like in so many words, we're looking at getting down towards tiebreakers probably in that scenario off the top of my head without going over everything else and just seeing that question live, at least tiebreaker 3, if not down towards 4 and 5, with not all 7, but like 5 or 6 of those teams ending with 2 losses, which again, I do not believe is logically possible because there are still more games that would have to be played even amongst those teams. But yeah, you're looking way in middle lower part of this list at a minimum.
I've looked into this for 2 reasons. Number one, when I made my preseason predictions, I made it very difficult on myself. And I believe in 4 of the 5 conferences, I created a 3-way tie. So I had to go through this and then figure out who, not only that I predicted, let's say, said team to be 7-2 in their conference, but who did they beat? Who did they lose to figure out what would the tie-breaking system be to figure all that out. Number 2 is that I'm doing a video series right now, and I've released the Big Ten where I'm going through these various scenarios. You know what's crazy? I know this is a Miami show and the ACC, but in the Big Ten, basically since Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State never lose to anybody else in the Big Ten, get this. How many games do you think that those 3 have won consecutively against the rest of the Big Ten without losing?
Jeez. I would say Neon 45.
Okay, you're in the ballpark. 38. So since the conclusion of the 21 season on the final weekend, Penn State they didn't have a great season, so they lost multiple games in 21 in their final game against Michigan State. But the 3 of them all went 8-0 against the conference last year, so that's 24-0, and they're currently 14-0. So they've got a 38-0 run. Therefore, if, let's say, Penn State beats Michigan and Michigan beats Ohio State and there's a 3-way tie, you can run through all the tiebreakers and none of them apply because they all tie with everything because they don't lose to anybody else.
Right.
And
go ahead.
It comes down to who has the composite. What 3 teams did you play in the other division that have the best composite record is basically what it's going to come down to.
Either that or the number 6, the team rating score, like what the metric that's provided to the the college football playoff committee, like that will be the determining factor, like, and that would be an interesting one because obviously, Sports Source Analytics wants to have their metric be valid because like they want to make that money and they want it to be a thing that everybody's going to lean on. So like they're going to definitely have to do some calculus themselves to figure out like, what does the Big Ten really want? And with all apologies and understanding in State College, Pennsylvania, what they want is scarlet and gray and maize and blue, my boy. So like if it comes down to them two, like, and having that again, like the game, which I mean is the name of that rivalry, is the game, capital T, capital G, played the last weekend of the season every year since forever, and will be henceforth played the last game of the season every game since forever. And then you get them again a week later, that ratings bonanza, and remembering that football games are television shows. Again, if it were a night game in Happy Valley as the Big Ten championship game, then maybe. But all things being equal, even with, that round robin 1, 2, 3 and everything, they're just going to be mad I mean, it's called Happy Valley, but they're going to be mad because they're going to be watching the other two teams play again.
Yeah, but I'm going through the division standings of who is going to be selected to go to the Big Ten championship game.
Oh, for just the one versus the East, or versus the West this year.
Yes.
Oh,
those.
Well, still, then Sports Source Analytics is going to give them the number of the team. You're saying it's not even going to get there?
No,
because
I've gone through the rank.
Jesus.
I've gone through the tie-breaking system, and it looks like it's going to come down to who played the three best opponents in the other division.
So who do you? I'll ask you afterwards.
It's extremely close. It's like, they've only played 5 of 9 conference games, so there's still so much football to be left to be played, and those teams are so marginal and beat each other. So it's a toss-up.
Oh man,
yeah, it's
okay.
It's a bit of a toss-up.
Interesting.
The way things shook out, of course, last year, the team that, as long as there's not any kind of egregious blowout, you got to think whoever gets left out is still going to make the playoff, possibly.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, I will love it if and when down the line we're able to have Miami as the focus of the making the playoff conversation. I saw my boy Melvin tweeted out a GIF after the future schedules came out and said Miami playoffs in 25 with a GIF that said, all right. So, I mean, would God that it would be that, and is expanding to 12. So, yeah, but before you get anywhere near there, you have to take care of business this week against NC State. That's the only team that we're playing this week is NC State. I get it. I know. Trust me. I've mentioned the city. I've mentioned the game. I have not mentioned the name of the school. I don't believe in this show. I've been trying to very intentionally not to mention their name. I also told you the date of the game for November 11th. Look it up if you don't know who we play on November 11th on Veterans Day. But this week we play NC State. And this is another chance to better our status towards a bowl game. This is another chance to go out and earn victory against an ACC team, which has proven to be difficult, the last few years. This is another chance just to take a step forward and show all of the players that we're recruiting. Every last one. And we're still recruiting lots of them. We're still trying to flip Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State. We're still trying to flip Ellis Robinson IV from Georgia. 5-star All-American, number 4 player in the country, best cornerback in this class. We're still probably trying to flip a few other guys from a few other places, because to be the kind of team that Mario Cristobal wants this team to be, and this organization holistically, this program to be, we're going to have to get more and more of those type of players, the Reuben Bains of the world, who we went toe-to-toe against everybody for, the James Williamses, the Cameron Kinchenses, the Francis Mauagoas, Riley Williamses, even Jaden Wayne, who's starting to see more rotation at defensive end because of injuries and things like that. Those are the guys who are going to be the foundational kind of players for this program moving forward. And this is another opportunity to show this next class of player in 24 and also 25. This is who we are and this is what we're building. And you can do the double-sided recruitment of, first of all, we're playing well, so we need you to continue that. But also, good is not good enough. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better best, right? So as we are going along that progressional path, we're good and we're trying to get better. And that means you. And in 24 and in 24 going for 25, we're better. And we're trying to get towards best, towards that championship caliber thing. And this is another opportunity to sell that product in multiple positive ways and continue to build those relationships. So you really have to dig in. You really have to focus because, again, you have to have more positive performances to erase the negative of the Georgia Tech game, because that was such a singularly stupid event that, like, everybody knows that. I mean, even people who don't watch sports, like I was a music major. I taught music forever. Like, I have friends who are who are musicians. I have friends who are, performers in theater and other things who are not plugged in and dialed into the world of sports. Why are they texting me talking about, I heard something weird about Miami football? I've never spoken football with you ever in my life, Stacy. You know what I mean? But like, this isn't like, but that it was such a stupid thing. It like broke the bounds of just insular college football. Like people who don't even follow the sport heard about that. So all of these things that we're doing to add positivity to the performance of this program are going to negate that super duper triple, quadruple, quintuple negative, right? So you really, really have to have that. Hopefully we're going to be on that path. And take another step forward. And then after taking the step forward and beating NC State, so I have bragging rights over my boss at the secret day job, then and only then will I mention the name of the opponent in that next week for rivalry week on November the 11th. But we have work to do, and hopefully the Canes are going to do it.
Now, of course, I think we can agree that nothing Miami does this season positively can be transcendent to that degree to resonate with those people. But that doesn't matter.
Right.
That doesn't matter.
Right.
What's impressive, yeah. What's impressive is that they got off the deck from that game and they're playing good football and beating good teams.
Yeah.
So it is impressive the way they rebounded, because that could be the sort of thing that just.
Absolutely. But you got to, and there was that question, because you go the next week and you lose at North Carolina, a team that I thought we were going to lose to anyway for the 5th time in a row, and 7th time out of 9, and did. But like, yeah, you have to give them credit for rallying, even if it was not perfect the last couple of weeks. Look, got the job done. We move forward. Still plenty of work to do. And yeah.
You alluded to the ACC releasing the new schedule for 2025 and beyond, I think through 27. Isn't it odd to see Cal on the schedule as a conference opponent? That's weird.
Yeah, and we're going to be going out there the first year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so next year, sorry, when they come in.
Yeah.
We're going out to the Bay Area to play Cal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will be interesting. I really have to go back and look at the numbers, because like they did the matrix chart of like how many times you play each team in this 3-year cycle, or in the 7-year cycle, excuse me. So because there's 17 teams, and so for Miami, they're one of a few teams who has a perfect chart, as in they play both of their tentpole teams, so that being Virginia Tech and Florida State, each year, all 7 years. So 7 times against those two, and 3 each for everybody else. There's a couple teams with that, and there's a couple other teams who are imbalanced. So it's like they have some 4s and 2s as opposed to like all of them being 3s and whatnot. So it's like, well, did they get a break with that, or did they not? I really had to kind of go back and dig into that. I didn't have time because I have a pretty large deliverable due this week for the secret day job, so I wasn't able to disaggregate all that data, because I'm disaggregating other data that I get paid to do, so I got to do that one first. But yeah, I do want to look at that and say, okay, like who doesn't have, because I think every team has at least one tentpole rivalry, and depending on if you have 1 or 2, that makes it possible to have the perfect 3 for everybody. Was it 14 teams at 3 and 2 teams at 7? Kind of a thing, but I have to look at that. But it is interesting to see that, and it'll be interesting to see our old friend Rhett Lashley in Dallas for SMU now coming into this conference. SMU leaning into that Texas oil money and said, "Look, we don't even need your TV money. We're good. Honestly, we've been trying to get back to the big time ever since we had the death penalty. This opportunity has availed itself. We have saved up all of our coins. We are ready to go. We got it." And like, hey, credit to that. It's like the Masters. If you don't know, the Masters doesn't sell advertising for their TV tournament anymore. They used to on CBS and everything.
Yeah.
And they were like, the advertisers and CBS were saying, oh, it's going to be whatever, or we want, outside input. And, they're very insular and racist and other things there at Augusta National. They just said, hey, so how much would it cost for us to subsidize the entire broadcast? And said, what? It's like, no, how much would it cost? Like, and it's one of those things, like, you don't ask unless you want to know the price, right? They said, tell us a number. How much would it cost? They said, well, it'll cost X $100 million a year. Oh, only? Cool. And they said, well, no, we got it. Cool. Yeah, we'll pay that. And now CBS was just like, we weren't really expecting you to do that. We were hoping you were to come to the table and like kind of barter with us or bend to, bargain and go back and forth and say, okay, we're going to give this, we're just going to buy it and we're just going to do it all. That's why you don't have commercials during the Masters. It's been a few years. If you didn't know, when you watch it, if you watch it, they don't run. So yeah, but SMU doing the same thing. We're like, keep your TV money. We're going to pay for it ourselves.
To add to that, Cam, I was at ESPN when ESPN picked up the first 2 days of the Masters. This was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And, ESPN has its usual way of producing sports, but because of that deal, not only were there no commercials, but we could only put up the ESPN logo in it had to be a transparent, where you can almost not see it. And it could only be up for like 5 minutes per hour. Otherwise, the screen had to be completely blank, no bottom line, none of that. Just.
And it's like, yeah, even if you watch it, it's like, okay, so like I'm watching whomever. I wonder what the scores are because, like, if you watch a normal, golf thing or whatever on ESPN, like they're scrolling the scores of the players in the tournament at the bottom, just whatever, not even like the world of sports, but like for this event that you're watching, this is the updated right now. And for the Masters, you know what? It's been 20 minutes. Flash a graphic for everybody really quickly because like it's pretty crazy. But yeah, that was the analogy that I thought of when SMU was just like, yeah, whatever y'all got to do, fine. We got it. Don't worry about us. We'll make it happen. It's the inverse kind of a thing, obviously, but pretty interesting.
Canes fans, enjoy the game on Saturday. Lock in on State of the U. Make it on back next Wednesday at 7 Eastern with Cam and myself. Cam, it's always a pleasure, sir.
Pleasure's mine. I'll see all you guys soon. Take care.